Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Sweat Simple podcast. I am feeling good. I just had one of my first iced coffees of the season. I know some of you are iced coffee all year round kind of people, but for me, it is seasonal. I love a hot cup of coffee in the morning, but I do think that I prefer iced coffee. It feels like a little bit more of like a treat for me almost. So when the weather starts to change, I love that iced coffee feeling when it's finally feeling a little bit like warmer in the mornings. I'm craving something cold. I have it in one of my like fun iced coffee mugs, which is literally just mason jars like every other basic girl. So I'm curious, shoot me a DM on Instagram. Let me know, are you an iced coffee all year round type of girl? Are you like me and you change it seasonally? I'm curious because I know everyone falls into a different camp. But ultimately today we are not here to talk about coffee, as much as I do think I could record an entire podcast episode about coffee and my love for it. Which actually, fun fact about me is I did not start drinking coffee until I was now that I'm about to say this still sounds so young, but I didn't start drinking coffee on a regular basis until I was probably 23 years old. Like all through college, my parents didn't drink coffee growing up, so I feel like I never had that exposure, and all through college, I never drank it, didn't like the taste, it didn't do anything for me. And then one of my friends took me to Starbucks a couple years after I had graduated college, when I was like, in my young professional era, and she made me try a pumpkin spice latte. And from there, I was hooked. I worked at Kohl's right out of school, and in the corporate office they have this like amazing cafe where you can get lattes like every day. So then I was like getting into the habit of getting a little latte when I was a little bit tired, and the latte really got me hooked. And then it just spiraled from there, and I was drinking coffee every single day. So but yeah, I feel like most people start drinking coffee in high school, college, and I truly was like good until I turned 23, and then my coffee addiction started. But again, not here to talk about coffee. We are here to talk about self-control and stress, because do you ever feel like you are cruising along when it comes to your fitness goals? You're absolutely crushing it, and then boom, out of nowhere, life starts to pick up, work gets extremely busy, you have like a bad emotional meeting, maybe you get some bad feedback, and suddenly the stress snacking starts. You want to stay consistent, like you have goals to hit, you are committed to this, you want to eat healthy, but it feels like when you're stressed, all bets are off, almost like you have no control. Like something I hear often is a lot of times you don't even realize that you're stress eating until after the fact. You take down an entire bag of chips without even realizing what's going on, without even like processing it, until you're at the bottom of the bag. I have some promising news for you. One, I want you to know that you're not broken and you're absolutely not alone in this. Stress snacking is so common. And in fact, because I tend to work with really busy, high achieving women, when most of them come to work with me in one-on-one coaching, they're struggling with this. So you're absolutely not alone in feeling like you can't get a handle on this. Like this is the one area of your health and fitness that you just can't seem to crack. And if you could just figure out this one thing, you would finally be consistent. I promise it's possible for you. And I do want to help you figure this out, because the truth is that it likely is holding you back from reaching your goals. It's one of the first things I tackle with my coaching clients when they're struggling with this. So I really want to help you too. And by the end of this podcast, I want you to have a really solid understanding of how to overcome the stress snacking, so that even in those moments of high emotion and high stress, you're still able to crush your goals. First, we're got to dive into some science. You know me, I love the science. I love the evidence. That is how we actually know that what we're going to be doing is working. So why is it so dang hard to stay consistent when you're stressed? So when we look at our brains, stress and self-control are truly enemies in your brains. They use two different operating systems. When you're stressed, you're really initiating a sympathetic nervous system, aka your fight or flight response. So your decision making is usually more impulsive, and you're using the emotional part of your brain, really looking for some instant gratification. at its core, you're really looking for an instant soothe. It's uncomfortable to have these feelings and you want something immediate to soothe or to calm you down. So most of the time we reach for food for that instant soothe. Now on the flip side of this, we have self-control. And this is mostly part of the parasympathetic nervous response. You're more likely to pause, to relax, and plan. The unstressed brain also taps into the prefrontal cortex, which is where self-control really lives. So you could bet that the more stressed you are, the harder it becomes to access your prefrontal cortex. All of a sudden, it feels like you have weaker control over your emotions, your action, your planning, and your focus. So stress and self-control are functioning in two different ways. And when you're stressed, it becomes hard to utilize self-control and make those more logical decisions that might be more in line with your goals. Your self-control really starts to decrease the more stressed you are. Now, what I don't want you to do with this information is to fall back on that as an excuse. At this point, after hearing that, you might be thinking, well, when I'm stressed, I guess I just won't ever have self-control and I'm screwed. No, we're not going to do that because that is a very fixed mindset perspective. And as you know, my coaching, everything I'm all about is about getting you to that growth mindset place and believing that you are capable of change. And these things don't need to hold you back from reaching your goals. Because there is some really good news. We have the opportunity to get out of that fight or flight mode. And to some degree, you can initiate your parasympathetic nervous system and give yourself the opportunity to get out of that emotional, get out of that soothe instinct, and take the time to pause and slow down. This is a strategy that I have my online coaching clients use. And in fact, I've had many clients who were big stress snackers when we first started working together. And over time, they're no longer turning to food or alcohol, which is really huge during these moments. So it's a pretty powerful tool, and I'd love for you to give it a shot. So it's called the 20-minute rule. Now, when you get that initial urge to snack out of stress, maybe it's boredom, some other sort of emotion, I want you to pause and wait 20 minutes. During those 20 minutes, I want you to go and do something. Now, ideally, the activity that you're choosing is a little bit more engaging than like just scrolling on your phone. It could be something like going for a walk and listening to a podcast, calling a friend, doing a puzzle, just something that engages your brain, or even like your hands a little bit more. Now, after the 20 minutes are up, if you still want the snack, you can absolutely have one. The goal is not restriction. The goal is just to take that pause. Because I want you to get out of that emotional part of your brain and give you some more access to your prefrontal cortex that allows you to access more of that logical decision making. So we're not staying in that emotional part of the brain that wants that immediate soothe. I want to give you the opportunity to get out of that and to start using self-control and your logical decision making a little bit more. Because when we do that, we're going to be more likely to make decisions that are in line with our goals instead of making decisions out of emotion and wanting that instant soothe. Now, this is a great strategy to use in the moment, but ideally over time, you're using it less and less because, number one, I no longer want food being the thing that you turn to when you're stressed, but also I want you feeling less stressed overall because you have better stress management techniques. Now, some levels and types of stress can actually be a positive for your body, but at the end of the day, constant stress in the body isn't great. And the 20-minute rule is a great one to have in your back pocket. It's a great one to, turn to in these moments of stress and emotion. But at the end of the day, the less you have to use it, the more likely you are to be successful. So in order to need to use the 20-minute rule or any, other sort of pause and self-control technique, you actually want to just get your stress levels down overall. So I can give you some stress management techniques here, and I'm going to. But at the end of the day, you really need to find what works for you, because what works as, a stress management for me might not be impactful for you. Something I will say though is when you're looking at these stress management techniques, you want to focus less on the things that are bringing you instant dopamine, things like food and scrolling, and you want to focus more on the things that are leading to long-term stress management. So, things like face masks are amazing, and even like a bath can be really cool, but a lot of times those aren't actually lowering our stress overall. They're more of those like instant gratification, more of those like instant things we can do to feel better. And yes, those absolutely have a time and a place, but I would also love for you to really find those techniques and the things that help you lower your stress levels overall, not just quickly for 20 minutes. So for me personally, therapy is one of my big stress management techniques, but other things that I really like are walking, my morning workout, keeping my phone on do not disturb, really like keeping those boundaries for my phone, not scrolling on social media all the time. Think about the things that really lead to, long-term fulfillment, rather than just like that quick, immediate soothe. So for you, it might be, having better sleep habits, setting more boundaries at work. As someone who used to really struggle with this, I promise you can set better boundaries at work. And it's probably going to lead to less stress overall. I know a lot of times when we're in those moments, we're like, I can't step away from work at all, because if I step away from work, I'm going to feel more stress. But actually, by creating some of these boundaries, it really allows you to separate yourself from work and really create more peace overall. So I promise you're going to be okay, and you're probably going to feel a lot better if you start to set some of those hard boundaries at work. Something that, again, can help with that is putting your phone on do not disturb. Other things that can help with overall stress management are things like yoga and breath work, but you really have to find the things that work well for you, because until you address the root cause of the issue, fat loss is going to continue to feel hard when you're stressed, because again, it's like we can focus on these short-term things and these, things to do in the moment. But at the end of the day, if you're in this state of constant stress, it's going to be really hard to continue to get yourself out of that time and time and time again as it pops up in those moments. So the best thing you can do for yourself, and part of the reason I focus so much on stress management with my online coaching clients, is because until you can get to that lower level of stress, fat loss might continue to feel difficult. So sometimes that's really one of the first things you have to tackle in order to lose weight successfully. Like, your calorie deficit is only going to be as successful as you're able to be consistent with it. And the more stressed you are, the more you live in this heightened state of stress, the harder it's going to be to stay consistent. So sometimes focusing on these lifestyle factors like stress, like sleep, are even more impactful than just starting immediately with trying to hit your calories all the time. We have to address some of those things that are making consistency really, really difficult before we can really start to dive into being consistent overall. So stress management is so important, and it can be a really big factor when you're losing weight. But after listening to this episode, I hope that you're feeling better prepared to tackle these high stress snack moments moving forward. I know this can be a nuanced topic. I know it's going to look different for everyone. I know this can be a little bit daunting to start to overcome, especially if you're someone who's currently living in that constant state of high stress. I don't want you feeling doomed that you can't lose weight during this time, because it's absolutely possible, but it is about learning how to do this in a way that is going to allow you to feel successful even when you have these moments of high stress. So if you have any questions on any of this, please shoot me a DM. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear from you. I would love to help. If you found this episode helpful, I would love it if you shared it with a friend that you think it would help too. Screenshot it, tag me in your stories. That helps this community grow a ton. But in general, I appreciate you guys being here. I'll see you next week, and thank you for being a part of this community.